Friends, it is quite well known that there are around 11,000 species of birds in the world, though American Natural History Museum in 2016 declared that there are 18,000 species in the world. But let us accept that there are around 11,000 species of birds known to science in the world. Asia has around 2,600 species, and Indian subcontinent has around 1,383 species of birds. All these species are not safe, and as per IUCN Red List of Threatened Species, there are around 96 species of birds in India which are at one or the other levels of threat. For example, there are about 17 species of birds which are critically endangered, and there are around 58 species of birds which are vulnerable as per IUCN Red List of Threatened Species. And yes, there are about over 80 species which are near threatened also. So you can easily understand that many birds are not safe in the world, and many of these threatened or near threatened species are water birds. Water birds means the birds not only those birds which not only require water for just drinking purpose, but which require water bodies or wetlands for fulfilling all of their life requisites like foraging, resting, roosting, and even breeding, or we can say nesting, etc. So there are many such species, and that's why if a bird is non-aquatic, or the birds which are dependent on water only for drinking purpose, or the birds which depend on water bodies for their entire life, for all these birds, water is extremely important. Many countries of the world observe World Migratory Bird Day. Foundation for Ecological Welfare decided to mark this day too. This year, that is for the year 2023, the global theme to observe this day, water sustaining the bird life, which means that this year's theme emphasizes the importance of water for the well-being of migratory birds. It is very easy to understand that a variety of migratory birds need water for fulfilling their life requisites. This may be drinking water, or it may be water as their habitat. When we say that water as the habitat for birds, we directly come to the topic of water birds or wetland birds. A large number of birds which are migratory to India are water birds. Water birds means the birds which depend on wetlands as very important source of food as well as their habitat. They include ducks, geese, then a large number of shorebirds, large waders, cranes, and terns and gulls, a variety of birds, So for all of them, wetlands are very, very important, and I would say water in the wetlands is very, very important. Wetlands are definitely in danger. As per one estimate, 35% of world's wetlands have disappeared in last 50 years in the world. So this is not a good condition at all. This is not a good situation at all. World Migratory Bird Day. To observe this day, we have invited a young PhD scholar from Wildlife Institute of India, Mr. Harindra Baraya, who has been doing his doctoral research on cranes and their migrations in India. Particularly, his field research is based in Gujarat state of Western India. He will today talk on bird migration in changing world, what we know and what we do not know. Let me give a brief introduction of Mr. Harindra Baraya. Mr. Harindra Baraya is, as I said, a PhD researcher with Wildlife Institute of India. He has master's degree in zoology, which he earned from MS University of Baroda, Gujarat. Currently, he is pursuing his PhD from Wildlife Institute of India, Dehradun, and his doctoral thesis is focused on the wintering ecology and migration strategies of wintering cranes in arid plains of Gujarat. He is keenly interested in field ornithology, and he believes in communicating science in regional languages to aid in wildlife conservation efforts. So now, without taking much of your time, I would like to invite Mr. Harindra Baraya to deliver his talk.
Hello friends, so my name is Harindra Baraya and I am a PhD scholar at Wildlife Institute of India, Dehradun. Right now I am in Western India, I am in Gujarat. So I have been witnessing during this last winter, I have been witnessing thousands of birds which are migratory birds. Gujarat in Western India is blessed with very good diversity and abundance of not only resident birds but also migratory birds. So therefore I am lucky, and many of you are also lucky to witness scenes like this on the screen, where you are seeing thousands of roses starling moving in the sky of Ahmedabad city in the downtime. Also, this is the case again, you can see that roses starling are moving even in the dusk time, very good numbers. Same is the case with barn swallow, which is again a migratory bird species which migrates from Himalayas to South Africa. So in Himalayas the species breeds and it goes all the way to South Africa for their wintering quarters. But during the passage time we are seeing very good numbers, or literally in thousands of numbers, of barn swallow in Western India. Same is the case with flamingo species. We are having two species of flamingos, greater flamingo and lesser flamingos. Although there are no solid recent events where flamingos may have migrated to South Africa or any other countries, but they have been recorded to be migrating from Western India to South India. And this is the scene from Thor Wildlife Sanctuary, where thousands of common cranes and many other bird species are seen in flight and also in residential state. So as I said, we are blessed with very good diversity, but still there are questions: where do these birds come from, and where are they going, and why? Why don't they just sedentary in one place, or they just live their entire life in one place, and why they need to move from one area to another area? So what are the underlying processes? What are the routes that they are taking? So these are some questions that we are trying to answer as a scientific community collectively. So if you will see the entire world, and if you consider the biodiversity as a whole, you will see there are many species are migrating from one area to another area. For example, very famous monarch butterfly, also the great migration of white-eared blue wildebeest, and many other species that includes tiny species like butterflies and dragonflies, and also large species like whales. So, but if we look at birds only, there are so many flyways, there are so many routes that they are taking, and among some 10,000 to 11,000 bird species that have been recorded around the globe, 40% of the total world's bird diversity is actually migrating from one area to another area. So here is some animation which is trying to explain why birds are migrating. So animals are on the move, but why? So one large answer is that resources on earth actually fluctuating. If you will observe this animation very carefully, you will see that uh, with the residing snow cover in the north, birds are moving or animals are moving towards north. But as soon as the north starts to be covered with snow, birds will or animals will start to fly back or run back or walk back to southern hemispheres. So yeah, this is the point where there is increase in snow cover, and that's why all the animals are moving back to south. So these are the actually resources which are driving the animal migration or animal movements across the globe. So there have been many explanation of bird migration. In fact, in earlier times, people didn't know that birds are actually migrating. For example, in Europe, Aristotle believed in transmutation. So he said that during summer, redstart annually transfer themselves into robin during the winter time. So redstart in the summertime, robin in the winter time. Same goes with the barn swallow. Aristotle believed that barn swallow is also transmutating. Linnaeus said the swallows spend their winters buried in swamps of frozen lakes. So this is kind of hibernation in birds. So these are the explanation, and also there have been bizarre explanation of bird migration or disappearing of birds. For example, Nepalese folklore says that in winter swallows are actually committing suicide in water, and in summer suddenly from somewhere they are reappearing. So these are the ancient explanation for bird migration, but none of them were true, because today we know that birds are actually migrating not from one area to another area. So today, on the occasion of World Bird Migration Day, I will be talking about bird migration in a changing world, what we know about this and what we don't know actually. So if you look at our position, we are in a Central Asian flyway. So there are at least 30 party states or party countries in Central Asian flyway. So this blue circle shows where actually the Central Asian flyway is, and these red lines are actually synthesis of different flyways inside the Central Asian flyway. Of course, this particular flyway that comes from South Africa to India through Oman is actually part of Asian African flyway, and same this from China to India to South Africa or Somalia is also transcontinental flyway. But these are the flyways which are crossed or which pass through in India, and many of them end up in India from northern hemisphere to southern hemisphere. So we are in Central Asian flyway. Nearly 400 bird species are migratory to India along this particular flyway. But why India? Why not any other country in southern? Of course, there are other countries, but why largely the Indian subcontinent? It is largely because of Himalayan wall. So Himalaya act as a wall to prevent that cold nature of northern hemisphere to spread across the southern hemisphere, and this is one of the why India has very diverse birds, migratory bird species, and also very good abundance of them. So if I talk about movement ecology, not only migration, because migration is basically a movement in a large scale. So if you look at movement ecology research in India, you will notice very good numbers of mammalian species. This dark blue is mammal. So from 1985 to 2021, you will see very good numbers of mammal studies, but very less number of studies on birds. So this light blue color are on birds, but still the numbers are not as many as mammalian species, though the movement studies are increasingly being undertaken by various research institutions. WI is one of them, BNHS is also one of them. So we are clearly seeing the increase in number of movement studies, but still bird movement studies are still limited. But how do we track birds? So before we answer about the migration and movement and all those things, we need to know how these studies are being taken up. So largely we have satellite tracking system, or we have Argos, we have Iridium. So these satellites are there in space, and we are using very small transmitters which are being fitted on birds, either on back, in neck, in legs, or sometimes in feathers, glued with tail as well. So these particular transmitters are using the satellite tracking system and providing us live GPS location, real-time GPS location, and also the information about the temperature, humidity, and many other environmental parameters. So using the transmitter and satellite tracking system, we are trying to understand how birds are moving from one place to another place and why behind that. So with respect to India, particularly the first ever satellite tracking of migratory birds in India was during 90s, when one common crane was tagged by some Japanese researchers called Higuchi, and that was the first tracking ever in India. And this particular study found, of course, very limited but very crucial information, that cranes are actually coming from southwestern Siberia to Rajasthan and possibly Gujarat as well. So this was the first effort when India started understanding how birds are migrating in the subcontinent. After that, again, from Gujarat, there was yet another effort to understand how common crane is migrating from northern hemisphere to India, and this gives much more information than the previous study, simply because of technological advantage, but still it wasn't enough. So during this study, we knew that birds are coming from Russia and all the way to Gujarat, and using this particular flyway, but still they stop over sites, their very fine scale movements, what are the elevation at which they are traveling, all those things were not known. So these are two primary migration studies that have been taken up in Gujarat. And then we have very interesting species, bar-headed geese. You all know already that bar-headed goose is one of the highest flying species. It actually crosses Himalayas at 8,000 meters and then come to Gujarat or to Indian subcontinent. So it is the population that we are receiving of bar-headed goose is from Mongolia, Tibetan Plateau, and some population from Tajikistan. However, we only knew that these are different breeding population in north area which are coming to India, but we don't know particularly for different regions within Indian subcontinent or within India's country. For example, we actually don't know what are the fine scale flyway of bar-headed goose that comes to Nal Sarovar or comes to Thog. We even don't know the bar-headed population which is there in Himachal Pradesh. Where is it coming from? Is it coming from Mongolia or is it coming from Tajikistan? We actually don't know, and we require much more intensive studies for that. So this is some advanced study on bar-headed goose itself, where it is showing the peak of Himalayas and showing how bar-headed goose has traveled. But still, again, this is the population that breeds in Tibetan Plateau and Mongolia. Still, it is not from for the population that comes to Western India. Red-shelled duck, again interesting species. We are seeing them in very good numbers, but information is still lacking. Mongolian population is going to Myanmar, then Tibetan Plateau population is coming to India, but it is very short flyway. But what about the population that comes to Western Gujarat? Still not known, and we are trying to understand or possibly be able to give the answer in coming years. When we talk about duck migration, again, all these populations are being studied in Tibetan Plateau and in China, but still these are all coming to Gangetic Plains, Brahmaputra Plains and surrounding areas. But the western population are still unknown. We don't know where these duck are coming from when they are coming to Gujarat. So still it is the mystery. But at least we know a few things, that okay, at least Brahmaputra and Gangetic Plain population is coming from Tibetan Plateau, Eurasian region, Northern Pintail, Gadwal, Gargani, and Northern Shallows. There are all species that come to Gangetic Plains via this particular flyway. Blackneck crane, if we talk about high altitudes in Himalayan ranges and then Tibetan Plateau, we have good population of blackneck crane in Ladakh. We have population in our neighboring country, which is Bhutan, and it is coming from Tibetan Plateau. There are some local movements. They are migratory if we consider the international borders, but they are showing very short distance migration. But yet we require much more intensive studies to understand their needs along the flyway, along their migratory routes. Demoiselle crane is one of the very well studied species when it comes to Western India, and demoiselle crane population breed in Mongolia. So you must have noticed that demoiselle crane breed in far eastern Mongolia. It then come down to China, and from there it starts its migration, come to Rajasthan and Gujarat. So this is when they are coming to India or Gujarat. But when they are going back to their breeding cycle, you must have noticed that they are actually not taking the same route. They are taking this oval shaped route. So while coming, they cross Tibetan Plateau and Himalaya, but while going back, they are going through Pakistan, Afghanistan, Uzbekistan, then taking eastward migratory route and going to Mongolia. So this is actually interesting. Whatever example that we have seen earlier is not showing similar patterns. They are all like straight lines or kind of detour lines. But this oval shape or loop migration has largely been recorded on the demoiselle crane only. So why they are taking this? Why they are not going back to this using the same route? This is the mystery, and Getbalt et al. Tried to answer this in Movement Ecology paper. So what they are arguing is that when demoiselle cranes are coming, situation or environmental factors are suitable for them along the Tibetan Plateau Himalayan flyway only. But when they are going back, environmental factors and habitat factors are not suitable along this particular flyway. That's why they are forced to take this detour or the loop migration, and they need to go from Pakistan, Afghanistan, Uzbekistan, and then eastward migration. So it is environmental factor or habitat factors, those are that are deciding from where the birds will be moving. BNHS has tracked greater flamingo some few years back during 2011 to 2015. So we know that Gujarat has the largest breeding colony of greater flamingo and lesser flamingo, but the effort by BNHS of tracking greater flamingo did not show the same. It showed that the population in this particular area is remaining in the same area only. It is not moving out. However, that could not confirm the breeding of greater flamingo in that particular area. So possibly the birds that they have tagged might not breed during 2011-2015 season, but other population might have moved to north to the Gujarat. So this is interesting study that we have. But let's talk about what we are doing, what Western Gujarat or Western Indian landscape is doing as far as the migration studies are concerned. So in Wildlife Institute of India, with the funding support from Power Grid Corporation and logistical and permission from Forest Department of Gujarat, we have been taking tracking study of migratory water birds in Western Gujarat, in the Kutch district and some parts of Narsaro and Thol wetlands. So first such study is about flamingos. My colleague Gaurav Sirola is studying how the fluctuating resources dry space used by greater flamingo and lesser flamingo. So he is actually looking at how food availability influences the spatio-temporal distribution of specialist filter feeder. Because if you notice that flamingo has very peculiar beak. It has very different shape of the beak, and it is not chewing or not picking up food. It is actually filter feeder. So it will move its beak in water, and it will using its cilia and all, it will just take up the food whatever there in water. So you know that we have famous Flamingo City in the Greater Run of Kutch. This is the location of Flamingo City. So run system is very interesting because run is extremely dynamic. It is being inundated by rivers coming from Sindh in Pakistan, and also Rajasthan, and also from northern Gujarat. So during pre-monsoon, run will be extremely dried up. During monsoon, there will be water, and post monsoon, water will start residing, and by the time of summer, there won't be any water anymore. So movement of flamingo is actually being governed by water availability in the run, because run is where they are actually breeding. So in the case of greater flamingo, you will see that it is largely using the western part of Gujarat. So of course, one particular flamingo went to Pakistan as well. With this particular flamingo visited Miami Hor Ramsar site in Pakistan. Motwa, which is interesting individual, because this individual was tagged in a shoreline. So it did not move much inside the inland wetlands. It remained in the shoreline only in Gulf of Kutch, and then when the breeding season started, it moved to Greater Run of Kutch. Paddar, which went to Miami Hor, was tagged from inland wetland. So you will notice that the bird remained in inland wetland only, and when it started breeding, it moved to Greater Run of Kutch. So again, there are two different population of greater flamingo. The population one population which uses only shorelines, and another population which uses only the inland wetland. Of course, we are still digging up in the data, and we are still trying to track more number of birds to be certain about these particular populations. In the case of lesser flamingo, you will notice that it is using only the eastern part of Kutch landscape, the shoreline of Gulf of Kutch towards the Kutch landscape, and then Greater Run and Little Run of Kutch. One particular individual, of course, came down to Bhavnagar, and it used salt pen there. So flamingos are actually observed in Gujarat is likely comprised of both resident and migratory population, because whatever population that we have tagged have never moved out of Gujarat. Of course, very small visit in Pakistan, but it was only 1 day visit. So largely they were in Gujarat only. But we are seeing this number of spike in numbers during the monsoon season. So from where these birds are coming? So definitely there is migrant population, where either they are coming from outside India or they are coming from South India. The greater and lesser flamingos differed in the use of wetlands, with the latter observed more in salt pens. Diet likely influences the wetland habitats used. So lesser flamingo is very specialized diet. It is only foraging on diatoms and blue-green algae only, while greater flamingos are utilizing broad spectrum of food, and that's why it is using different locations or different habitats. So flamingos enter in run habitat during the peak of southwest monsoon and remain in the run until the end of December or end of the winter, start of the winter season and end of monsoon. So I said that flamingos are using salt pans very often. So how these salt pans are actually governing the space used by flamingos? Are they benefiting flamingos, or they are just providing food for very shorter time, and then are there any adverse effect on flamingos? We actually don't know. So this is still a question whether salt panning works have a positive influence on flamingos or not. Another study is being carried out by me I am looking at how cranes are using the multi-use landscape of Gujarat, particularly the western Gujarat population and north Gujarat population of common crane. So I am investigating the factors that influence the spatial use by wintering crane species in plains of Gujarat. So if I talk about common crane, it is a list concern species. Demoiselle crane, same case with the species. So I am using GPS GSM transmitter, deploying on the leg of the cranes, and after that tracking their live movements. So this is what we found, their migratory route. So common crane are actually traveling 4,500 to 5,000 kilometers of distance. The population that comes to Thor and also Ramsar site is going to southwestern Siberia in Russia. So during this migration, they are traveling non-stop when they are coming back to India. Duration of the migration is varied from 9 days to 26 days. So it's actually differs in northbound and return migration. During the northbound, they are taking some 15 to 26 days, while returning they are taking shorter time, which is 9 to 15 days. In northbound, they are making few stopovers to refuel themselves, but while returning, they are not stopping over. So again, it is question why they are not taking stopover during returning. Why only they are taking stopover when they are on their northbound migration? And during daily traveling, they are traveling 340 kilometers per day, while when they are going to northbound migration. And during returning, they are traveling 390 kilometers of distance in one day, which is average distance of all the days traveled. So along this flyway, you must have recorded that in the breeding ground, they are all actually dispersed. They are in very large area, some 300 kilometer spaced apart from each other. But when they come down to Gujarat, they are living very small area. They are living all together. So how they are actually deciding from where to go where? How they are deciding which flyway to take, which particular route to take? Why they are coming only one particular area and not coming any other areas? So these are the questions that I am trying to give, and possibly in a year or two, I will be able to I will be able to give a solid answer to them. So we cannot discuss migration only simply because migration is one event, but it is actually depends on how they are using wintering and breeding grounds. So if you will notice here, during wintering ground, this one particular crane only used very small area, which is 148 square kilometer. But when it was in breeding area, it used 610 square kilometer. So what are their needs on this two particular ground will decide from where or when they will start migration, which route they will take, how many days will they spend on the migration, and then what will be the condition of wintering ground and breeding ground. Depending all this thing, there will be a cumulative answer why they are moving in this fashion. So also their ranging pattern is differ within species between individuals. For example, there is one particular bird named Gunny. It uses very small area, while another bird named Bhal uses very large area. You will see Bhal uses 3000 square kilometer, while Gunny uses only 90 square kilometer. Why? So far we are thinking that it is the habitat that they are inhabiting. For example, Bhal is living agriculture fields. Agriculture fields are much more dynamic in nature. There is a large amount of disturbance there. But Gunny is using the little run of Kutch, where resources are very concentrated and there is virtually no disturbance in the area. That's why Gunny is using very small area, while Bhal is using extremely large area. So this is one of the explanation. We are digging more in the data. So these are the common crane in raiding in the standing crop. So this is again one interesting aspect of common crane life history. We are also trying to understand how this cropping pattern is impacting common crane space use. while they are raiding this thing, how do often they are raiding the standing crops. So because we have recorded a very small number of events when they are raiding crops, but why they are raiding, and because largely they are foraging on leftover seeds only. So what is their food availability at different stage of crop, and how they are utilizing them. So advancement in tracking technology has led to a better understanding of bird migration more than ever before, but still several important questions remain to be unanswered. How and why do cost of migration vary among individuals and species? So earlier I discussed that within the species, individuals are using different habitats. Individuals are using one habitat in one time, another habitat in next time. So how they are deciding what are the cost effects that individuals is suffering with? So this is the question that we really don't know. How does top or habitat quality affect the migratory decisions of birds? So you all know that we are living in a multi-use landscapes. We are living in changing world. So habitat is changing very rapidly. There is pressure from industrial segment, there is pressure from agriculture segment, and many other segments, which is leading through to the large scale habitat changes. So how these changes are occurring on the stopover sites when birds are on the migration, and what are their effect on birds, and what are the physiological strategies. I told you that one bird is using one flyway in one migration, another flyway in next migration. There is one more species which is crossing Himalayas, but then species like common kern that never crosses Himalayas. So what are the physiological strategies do birds adopt on migration to minimize energy cost? Because even if you want to cross Himalayas, or even you want to cross run, you will need energy. So what are those strategies, and how will climate change will affect the migratory birds? We don't know. We are trying to answer that. Of course, there are so many studies trying to answer this question, that climate change is leading to delay in migration, it is forcing bird to move earlier, and so many other things. So in changing world, as I told you earlier, there are multiple threats. Of course, obviously, habitat loss and degradation, reclamation of intertidal habitats, especially mud and salt flats, and also the agriculture fields. Hunting is one of the important issue, especially in the countries along the common train migratory flyway, where the Pakistan, Afghanistan, and other countries are located, where the hunting is a serious threat to them. Energy infrastructure is also a threat to migratory birds, because birds are often collided with the power lines and also windmills, and windmills is also causing the functional habitat loss for this particular species. Climate change and disease outbreak are also very serious threats to be addressed. So thank you. Wish you everyone happy Migratory Bird Day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Harindra. It was very, very interesting talk by you, and the viewers are really now aware after listening to your talk about the recent scenario of bird migration in this changing world, and now they might be aware that what they do not know about the bird migration, what they did not know about the bird migration. So thank you very much once again, and we would like to invite you in such online programs in future also. Thank you very much.